Good evening and welcome to the Private Housing Evening. My name is Sue Mannion and I'm the manager of the Student Hub. First of all, I want to apologise because I have a cold and I may be coughing and spluttering through the talk. It is a cold, it isn't coronavirus, and I have washed my hands and sung happy birthday twice. So you're all okay. I'll try not to cough and splutter over you too much. But I'd like to say welcome to the Private Housing Evening. We hope this evening will guide you through the journey that you need to take in order to move into the private rented sector. Few housekeeping points before we start. If the fire alarm goes off, the fire exits are here. It's my hair hostess bit at the side here and at the top. And the assembly point is on the Queen's lawn. Okay. And also, can you please ensure that you switch all your mobiles onto silent? Thank you. Okay, so let's move on as to why we're here. The majority of you probably live in halls, so moving into private accommodation will be new to most of you. And as well as being the next exciting stage in your student life, it can also be quite daunting and quite scary. You know, you've got to sign legal documents and deal with estate agents and landlords, and that's always not easy. So we're here to help you through that process and to make sure that we're arming you with all of that information. But we won't be giving you it all in one go because it's such a lot of information. We will also be coming to your halls in May as part of our May Housing Mayhem. So what are we going to talk to you about tonight?
Flatmates. You gotta love them. No, seriously, you do at least have to like them. It's also good to choose flatmates with the same schedules, budgets, and priorities. So if you prefer, I don't know, paying your rent on time and not setting fire to things, make sure your flatmates feel similarly. Or that assured short-hold tenancy agreement could come back to bite you. With those boxes ticked, it's time to find a house. So, you've got your flatmates lined up? Now for the house. There are various types of accommodation you could go for, but whatever you choose, make sure you go with an established estate agent. You can find a list of them, along with a cheeky offer or two at the Imperial Home Solutions site. Budget is your next consideration. Don't you just love being a responsible adult? Rent, bills, travel, and nothing says responsible adult like a spreadsheet. And finally, don't forget to check the area. That ensuite bathroom won't seem quite so appealing when you're stuck on a bus into uni from Zone 9. With all those boxes ticked, you can move on to paying your deposit.
Before we go any further, someone's left a suitcase or something over there? Is it someone's? Anyone owning up? They're moving in already. I'm sure one of my team will be able to get rid of it or get security to come and take it away. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. That was just a little taster of what we're going to talk to you about. So we're going to talk to you about your journey. The presentation should only take about 20-25 minutes. You'll be pleased to know we won't be chatting on all night. And we're going to cover some of the key areas about your house hunting journey. We'll talk to you about who do you want to live with, through to where and when to look, what type of accommodation is out there, and how much is it going to cost. What I would say to all of you, though, is it's really important to do your research before you jump into the search process. Arming yourself with essential knowledge on what you're looking for, what your budget is, and where you want to live will not only ensure you find the ideal place for you, but will help to avoid being scammed or pressured into a decision. So let's think about your search timeline. As you can see, in January and February, you should have been starting to chat to your friends and thinking about who you actually wanted to live with. But we're now in March, so what should you do first and over the next couple of months? As we said, do your research about where you want to live, how much is it going to cost, and most importantly, who you're going to live with. That person who you sit next to in the lab or in your lecture theatre or you have breakfast with in your halls of residence may be your best friend, but do you really want to live with them? It's true, it's very true. Are they clean and tidy as you are? Do they cut their toenails and leave them in a matchbox next to the cooker? I don't know. Are you happy to do that? But you need to think very carefully about who you want to live with. So sleeping patterns. Do you like to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night while your flatmates are out partying till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? Do your flatmates have a partner that likes to come and stay 2 or 3 nights a week? You need to think very carefully about that because that could add costs. That could add costs to your utility bills. You know, extra electricity, extra heating bills. You know, are they stealing your biscuits out of the cupboard? You know, all these things need to be discussed before you move in. Do you have compatible budgets? So are you a group of students that have all got, all can afford the same amount? Or is there one in your group that maybe can't quite afford the same? You need to think about these things when you're going to look for accommodation. And diets. Are part of your group vegetarians or vegans? Or are you meat eaters and love a bacon sarnie? Think about that. Think about the people that you're going to live with. And you may have to make compromises, within the group. And also think about your length of stay within the property. That's really important. If you know that you're going on a field trip and you don't need to be in the property for the full year, think about how you're going to get out of the contract. Are you going to be able to find someone to replace you in the contract? And how much is it going to cost? Because there will be a cost associated with that. And you may need to discuss this with your other flatmates who you're going to be moving in with. But where are you going to look to find accommodation? There's lots of places to look. I'm sure you've met quite a lot of the estate agents and accommodation providers tonight at the exhibition. But a lot of you will do your searching online. There's plenty of websites that advertise spare rooms or available flats, but it's worth looking for sites and listings that specifically cater for students, such as Imperial Home Solutions. I'm now going to hand you over to Michael.
Thank you, Sue, and good evening. I'm Michael Swan, Senior Student Hub Advisor. We do understand that beginning your property search in London can be slightly daunting. Imperial Home Solutions has been created as a secure, bespoke site for Imperial students that gives you access to a variety of housing options, centred all in one place. The website has listings for over 400 private landlords, as well as contact details for a range of private hall providers and agents, a number of whom are exhibiting at this evening's event. There's also a student message board where you can get in touch with other students looking for accommodation or housemates to live with. All of the landlords and agents advertising on Imperial Home Solutions are required to give contact information and copies of required safety documentation, such as gas safety certificates. Alongside this, a large number of the private landlords advertising on Imperial Home Solutions have been working closely with the college for a number of years and are very familiar with Imperial students and their housing needs. The website will be updated thoroughly in the coming months with the latest news and useful articles to help you all in your property search. The next step is to decide what type of accommodation you want. This is directly influenced by the number of people you want to live with and your budget. So, for example, if there is a group of 4 or more, then the chances are you'll be looking for a house share. This can also be the cheapest way to rent accommodation, as you can spread the cost of the bills between you. If there is a group of you renting together, some landlords will allow you to convert the living room as a bedroom, which will cut down on costs as there are more of you sharing. Alternatively, some of you may wish to live alone, in which case you'll be looking for a studio or a bedsit. However, remember that you'll be the only one paying the bills, so ensure you factor this into your budget. Other options are to look at living with a resident landlord, so essentially lodging. You'd sign a different type of contract called a license, which is only a permission to occupy and does not give you the same security as an AST. However, this may be good for some of you, as it can be cheaper, or alternatively, you could return to purpose-built student halls. Again, there are a number of hall providers in London, and you may have already met some at the exhibition downstairs. When deciding on the different types of accommodation with your flatmates, you have to be realistic and you may have to compromise. Unless you have a huge budget, you may not find the perfect place. You do need to decide what is important for you, and remember that you won't be living in the property forever. Setting a budget. Okay, so you've decided who you'd like to live with. Now it's time to think about your budget. How much are you actually going to need to spend? Rent will be your first major cost, with Imperial students in the private sector paying anything from £150 to £220 per week per person on rent, depending on how many there are in the group and the type of property you decide upon. You'll also need to budget in other weekly costs. Bills, we estimate at approximately £25 to £30 per week per person. Remember that as full-time students, you won't have to pay council tax, but please make sure you visit My Imperial online for a council tax exemption letter and send that off to the local council when you move in. Don't forget to set aside a budget for food. Shop together if you all like the same thing. You may find it useful to start a kitty for essential household items, such as washing up liquid and washing powder. And don't forget to factor in a budget from travelling to and from college on the bus or the train. As full-time students, you'll be eligible for a 30% discount from Transport for London. And finally, socialising, whether that be an evening out or a trip to the cinema, remember to set aside some money for socialising. So depending on how many of you are sharing, or whether you're renting alone, we estimate that you should each budget for between £300 and £380 per week. Again, please bear in mind that in deciding to live on your own, the costs will be significantly higher and you will remain solely responsible for the bills. Although you will incur significant costs in renting private accommodation, one positive is the recent Tenant Fees Act. From the 1st of June 2019, the Tenant Fees Act came into action, banning most letting fees and capping tenancy deposits paid by tenants in the private sector. Here are some of the things that you can still be asked for if you're more than 14 days late in paying your rent. If you've lost a key or a fob, you could be charged for that. Or if you want to end or change a term in your tenancy. However, there are some positives. Because of the new Act, you can't be asked to pay for referencing, credit or immigration checks, administration fees in general, or any fees for renewing your tenancy. Moving on, fees and deposits. When you start to look for private accommodation, you'll need to think about the additional costs listed on the slide. If you do decide to rent your accommodation through an agent, you'll find yourself paying various fees. These fees are paid before you move into your new house or flat. The first one we're going to look at is the holding deposit. Now, this is the amount of money that you'll pay to the agent to hold the property for you and for them not to rent the property to anyone else whilst your references are being checked. Most agents will charge you a holding deposit, which will usually be a week's rent. If you then go on to rent the property, this money will become part of your security deposit. But please be aware, if you do pay a holding deposit and then change your mind, you will lose that money. So only pay the holding deposit once you are sure that you want to take the property. The security deposit. Now this is paid once you've agreed to take the property, and the agent will want you to pay the security deposit quite quickly, and it will be, in most cases, 5 weeks' rent. This is the money that the landlord or agent will hold until the end of your tenancy. And of course, rent. Most of you will be asked to pay 1 calendar month's rent up front. However, if you don't have a UK-based guarantor, then the agent could ask you to pay up to 6 months' rent in advance. You may also have to pay some additional charges whilst you're living in the property, such as late payment charges for rent, charges if you want to replace one of your group midway through the tenancy, and payments associated with the early termination of any tenancy. So you need to be prepared to pay in the region of £1,400 to just over £2,000 per person before moving in. Under new legislation, all agents must clearly show what these fees will be. So we've looked at the types of accommodation you might like, but it's actually really important to think of where you might like to live in London. Listed on this slide and in your exhibition bags tonight, you'll find an area guide. Are you happy to live in the city centre, or would you prefer somewhere slightly more suburban and further afield? The map here shows where most of our students live at the college, and again, it's in the area guides that you'll find in your packs. We've calculated the average rent per week and the travel options to and from South Kensington campus to help you choose the area which best suits your needs. We'd all like to live locally to the college, but you may have to live further out due to your budget. Once again, it's all about having to compromise to get the property you can afford. Have a think about the travel connections from South Kensington and White City campus, the amenities in the local area, and check out the area during the day and the evening. If you're going to the area in the evening, take a friend with you. Think about your personal safety. I'll now hand you back to Sue.
Thanks, Michael. In February 2016, legislation came in to say that once you've found a property and you've agreed to the terms and conditions with the agent or the landlord, they will require you to prove that you have the right to rent the accommodation. To prove this, they will likely ask you for a copy of your passport and or your visa. If you check the website shown, that will give you lots of information about the type of documentation that you could be asked for. We would strongly advise not sending copies of your documentation via email, and do not allow agents or landlords to take your original documents away. If your landlord wishes to do this, we suggest that you copy the documents yourself, show the landlord the original documents, and then give them the copies. Again, the website provides lots of information on this. In addition to the right to rent legislation, another aspect to consider is whether you require a rent guarantor. Okay, you heard Michael say about rent guarantees, that if you don't have a rent guarantor, an agent or a landlord will have the right to ask you to pay sometimes 6 to 12 months rent in advance. So if you're paying rent of, just you on your own of £1,000 a month, that could cost you £12,000 up front. It's a lot of money. So Imperial decided that they would actually stand and act as a rent guarantor for all returning undergraduate students. So this will help you that you only have to pay your rent on a monthly basis. The Imperial Rent Guarantor Scheme, as I said, allows Imperial College to act as a UK-based guarantor. We've been doing this for 3 years now, and it's been extremely popular. Last year we had about 270 successful applications, and we will do it up to a value of £250 per week rent per person. Okay. The scheme will reopen again in April this year, so it gives you plenty of time to start thinking about, when you're going out looking for accommodation, that when the landlord or the agent says to you about a guarantor, you can say, well, I'll apply to Imperial. But, for example, say you think, actually, I really don't want to live in the private sector yet. I'm not quite ready. You can go to Evelyn Gardens. Evelyn Gardens is a hall. It's just in South Ken, just a little 5-10 minute walk from Gloucester Road Station. It's exclusively for returning undergraduates, and it is on a 38-week contract, so very similar to what you have in halls. There isn't a warden team at Evelyn, so students do live more independently, but there is still residence assistance and a 24-hour concierge service. You also have the convenience of having all utility bills included, including internet and contents insurance. There's a range of rooms available, and prices start at £178 per week, which compares quite favourably with private halls, which tend to be a little bit more expensive. Applications for this hall will open later this month and will be processed on a first-come, first-served basis. Obviously, it's only quite small. There's only 250 beds. So if you think that this could be an option for you, make sure that you get in there quick and make your application. We've gone through lots of things already tonight. So we've spoken to you about your flatmates, about your budgets, about areas that you maybe want to live with, and it is quite a lot to take in. As I said right at the very beginning, don't worry too much. We're going to be coming to your hall in May as part of our May Housing Mayhem. It will also be an opportunity to meet some of the private hall providers that are here tonight, but it might have been a bit more difficult getting to speak to them. And you might have different questions by the time we get to May. And because it's over dinner time, and we know you're all going to be revising for your exams, we're going to bring along free pizza. So that's good enough to come anyway, isn't it? And while we're there, we're going to talk to you in more depth about contracts. What are your legal obligations to a contract? What type of contract are you going to sign? Is it going to be an assured short hold tenancy? Is it going to be a licence? What's the difference? Deposits, what's the difference between a holding deposit and a security deposit? Michael's already given you some ideas. How do you know that your security deposit has been protected? How can you check that your landlord has protected that deposit? What to do when you move in and out of a property, and what also to do when things go wrong. So, and inventories, and how to take photographs, and all of those sort of things we're going to cover when we come to see you in May. But if you want some help and you're not sure and you want to find out a bit more before then, we've compiled a private housing guide. You've all got these in your bag, and they give you lots and lots of information and things to look out for when you are looking. Tells you all about contracts and deposits in there as well. But we will be around in May. But also what you need to also start thinking about now is, are you still going to be in London over the summer? And where are you going to live? So you can stay in halls over summer. We have spaces available in Zania Hall, in Waterloo, and in Woodward, which is in Northampton, B block. And we have beds available from £105 per week. Where it says rooms up there, we mean twin rooms. So if you want to twin and share with your friend, they're £105 a week. They can be booked on a short, standard or long stay basis. So you could stay for one night or you could stay for the whole summer. If you're transferring from term time accommodation on the 27th of June, you will still need to check out at 10 o'clock in the morning, but you can store your luggage at the summer hall before checking in again at 4. Full details are available on the Summer in Halls page on our website. You've also all got a leaflet in your bags as well. The applications will be open before the end of March, and there's a wide range of prices and room types, so we can recommend you apply early for the best availability. So, we do a lot at the Student Hub, but have we wowed you? We're always looking for ways to improve, and that's the only way that we're able to develop our private housing events based on your feedback. One of the ways we do this is through the WOW Awards, where you can nominate staff. This is an international scheme, and we've done quite well at it in the past. The Student Hub have been nominated for 2 years running as customer service finalists. And one of our Student Hub advisors, Pat, who is standing there leaning against the post, has been Customer Service Professional of the Year a couple of years ago, and this year she's reached her 100 nominations. So well done to Pat. We've now rolled this out to the halls. So if you're living in halls and you think that one of the hall staff has done an amazing job and they've gone that extra mile for you, please go onto the website and nominate them. It's good to let their manager see that they're doing their job well. And also, it's nice for them to feel appreciated. This just leaves me to say a really big, big thank you to you for coming to the accommodation and for the accommodation providers in the QTR, and they're still there, so please go back. And to my team and to the volunteers who make this event, what it is, as special as it is. And in order to say thank you to you, we're giving you the opportunity to win, hold on, I've got to get this right, Beats wireless headphones. Okay, I'm sure I've said it right, and I'm told that they're very good. All you have to do is go onto the digital exhibition guide that you can access through the QR code and complete the survey. So again, thank you, and we'll see you in May.